Paige Bueckers got smoked.
Has to lock her up. Draped all over Gray. Tries to get to her spot. A foul is called.
It wasn't close. It wasn't competitive. Oh, wobble leg Chelsea Gray beat Paige Bueckers in 1v1. Paige Bueckers commits a foul, sends Chelsea Gray to the free throw line.
Free throw here for Gray, seals it. Did miss one in the first round against Cloud. Paige Bueckers is livid.
Oh, it brings a tear to my eye. When Paige Bueckers throws these little temper tantrums, it's like she's done it her whole entire life, and nobody said to her, hey, we don't do that here.
She has
Nola Henry's words, clutch.
Paige Bueckers was expected to have a coronation in Miami as the hand-picked chosen one of the tournament. Instead, her performance was defined by a loss of composure. Despite the UConn hype and the Golden Girl branding, Bueckers struggled to maintain her professional bearing when the game became difficult. Her conduct on the court has led many to question if the perceived Paige privilege has reached its limit. The issue extended beyond her play. Throughout the game, Bueckers appeared increasingly frustrated, frequently pouting and complaining to the officials after unfavorable whistles. While the media often labels other players as difficult or unprofessional for showing similar emotions, Bueckers' outbursts are frequently characterized as competitive fire. Last night, however, that behavior appeared more like entitlement. Following the game, she bypassed fans and exited directly to the locker room, suggesting that her player of the people reputation may only apply during victories. Chelsea Gray, meanwhile, provided a veteran masterclass. Gray is not the fastest or highest jumping player on the court, but her skill and tactical intelligence allowed her to control the matchup. While Bueckers attempted to bait fouls or exaggerate contact, Gray remained focused on the game. It was an example of veteran experience overcoming a younger player's expectations. The situation highlights a perceived UConn privilege that often shields Bueckers from criticism. For instance, Caitlin Clark's father has been seen directing her to stop arguing with officials on national television. Bueckers, however, faces little resistance from her coaches or the media regarding her on-court behavior. This tournament was intended to be her crowning achievement in Miami, but Chelsea Gray exposed the flaws that emerge when a superstar can no longer rely on a specific system to hide their defensive weaknesses. While Bueckers struggled, Aliyah Boston took control of the event. Boston arrived in Miami with a focused, physical approach, defeating Breanna Stewart and Aliyah Edwards with ease. This was a more aggressive version of Boston than audiences are accustomed to seeing. She utilized her size and strength to dominate the interior, providing a stark contrast to the frustration seen from Bueckers. Reports suggest Candace Parker has encouraged Boston to embrace a more assertive style of play. This shift marks Boston's transition into a more mature, dominant force. She has expanded her game to include an outside shot and rim protection, proving she is physically superior to her competition. Watching her eliminate the UConn elite served as a counterpoint to Bueckers' exit. As one player focused on the officiating, the other focused on physical dominance. The conclusion of this tournament raises significant questions about the future of the Paige Bueckers brand. When faced with the pressure of individual competition, she appeared rattled. In contrast, Chelsea Gray and Aliyah Boston demonstrated that media narratives matter little once the ball is in play. Their performances sent a clear message: the era of the protected superstar may be ending. If this tournament serves as a preview of the coming seasons, the league is facing a shift. The focus is moving away from social media presence and toward the necessity of winning to earn respect. Bueckers remains a media favorite, but that status does not guarantee success on the court. It appears the crown intended for her may have been placed on a different head entirely. The shift in momentum observed in Miami is not merely an isolated incident of a single player underperforming. It represents a fundamental recalibration of the power dynamics within professional women's basketball. For years, the narrative surrounding the sport has been anchored to specific institutions, with the University of Connecticut serving as the primary exporter of high-profile talent. This UConn pipeline created a specialized class of athlete who entered the professional ranks with a built-in infrastructure of media protection and brand deals. However, the performance of veterans like Chelsea Gray and the physical evolution of Aliyah Boston suggest that the professional game is no longer willing to defer to collegiate pedigree. The point guard did more than just win a game. She dismantled the notion that a high-profile prospect can dictate the terms of a matchup through reputation alone. The scrutiny now turns toward the coaching and development structures that surround these elite prospects. In the collegiate environment, a player of Paige Bueckers' stature is often the focal point of a highly controlled system designed to maximize her strengths and mitigate her liabilities. When that system is stripped away in a one-on-one or small-sided tournament format, the technical gaps become impossible to ignore. Without a screen to rub off of or a structured fast break to facilitate, the game becomes an interrogation of individual grit. Last night, the answers provided were insufficient. While the media often highlights the marketability of certain stars, the reality on the hardwood is that marketability does not translate to lateral quickness or defensive positioning. This brings us to the broader implications for the league's marketing strategy moving forward. There has been a concerted effort to lean into the influencer era of sports, prioritizing social media engagement, pre-game tunnel walks, and TikTok-friendly highlights. While these elements drive short-term visibility, they risk alienating the core basketball purists who value the technical execution shown by players like Gray and Boston. The contrast in Miami was stark. One player seemed preoccupied with the optics of the struggle, while the others were preoccupied with the mechanics of the win. If the league continues to tether its identity to a handful of chosen ones, it risks a credibility crisis when those stars are consistently outclassed by the blue-collar veterans who have been ignored by the cameras. The evolution of Aliyah Boston is perhaps the most significant data point in this shift. Often characterized as the nice girl of the South Carolina program, Boston has historically been praised for her sportsmanship and soft-spoken nature. But the version of Boston that dismantled Breanna Stewart was a calculated physical force. This grown-up version of her game is a direct response to the physicality of the professional level. By incorporating an outside shot and utilizing her frame to bully opponents in the paint, she is effectively rewriting the scouting report. She is no longer just a reliable post presence, she is becoming a tactical nightmare who can punish defenders in multiple dimensions. Furthermore, the influence of veterans like Candace Parker cannot be overstated. Parker, a player who navigated her own journey through immense hype and eventual championship validation, represents the bridge between the old guard and the new. Her reported mentorship of Boston suggests a passing of the torch that is rooted in toughness rather than just talent. It emphasizes that respect in this league is not granted upon entry, it is taken through sustained dominance. While the UConn elite were being sent home, Boston's performance served as a reminder that the most dangerous player is often the one who feels they have been overlooked. Looking at the upcoming season, the unrivaled era faces a choice. It can continue to manufacture narratives around pre-selected stars, or it can lean into the competitive reality of the sport. The fans in Miami were witnesses to a breakdown in the expected script. They saw that a coronation is a fragile thing when faced with a veteran who refuses to play along. The messy end of the protected superstar era might be exactly what the league needs to reach its next level of maturity. It forces a return to the fundamentals, defense, rebounding, and the mental fortitude to play through a whistle that doesn't go your way. As the dust settles on the Miami courts, the questions surrounding Bueckers will likely intensify. Talent is rarely the issue for players of her caliber. The issue is the insulation. When a player is told they are the future of the sport before they have conquered the present, the resulting friction can be destructive. The hype train has hit a wall, and the debris is scattered across the floor of the 1v1 tournament. Meanwhile, players like Aliyah Boston and Chelsea Gray are already moving on to the next task, their actions having spoken far louder than any pre-game promotional package. The crown has not just been placed on a different head, the very nature of the throne is being redefined. The implications of the Miami results extend into the training facilities and front offices of the professional game. For years, the developmental model for elite prospects has prioritized offensive versatility and highlight reel aesthetics. This approach has produced players with exceptional shooting range and ball handling skills, yet the 1v1 format exposed a critical deficiency in traditional defensive fundamentals. When the team-based help defense of a structured system is removed, the ability to slide feet, maintain leverage, and contest without fouling becomes the true currency of the court. The struggles seen in Miami suggest that the current generation of chosen ones may be over-indexed on offensive flair at the expense of the grit required to win isolated possessions. This disparity in fundamental toughness is often a byproduct of the environment in which these players are raised. High-profile recruits frequently move from elite AAU programs to powerhouse collegiate systems where they are rarely the underdog. They are accustomed to playing with a lead, supported by superior depth and favorable officiating. In contrast, players like Chelsea Gray have built their careers on the margins, perfecting the nuances of the game that do not always appear in a box score. Gray's performance was a clinic in old-school basketball, using angles, body positioning, and psychological pressure to unravel an opponent who expects the game to be played on their terms. It was a stark reminder that while talent can get a player to the league, it is veteran savvy that keeps them there. The reaction from the coaching ranks has been one of quiet observation. There is a growing consensus that the star treatment afforded to certain players during their collegiate years can be a developmental hindrance. When a coach refuses to hold a star player accountable for on-court outbursts or defensive lapses, they are essentially deferring a difficult conversation that the professional game will eventually force. In Miami, that conversation happened in real time. The lack of an internal off switch for frustration was evident, and without a coaching staff to intervene, the downward spiral was left to play out on a national stage. This serves as a cautionary tale for the next wave of prospects. The professional level does not care about your pedigree, and the referees do not care about your brand. Economically, the league finds itself at a crossroads regarding its unrivaled marketing strategy. The investment in these high-profile tournaments is predicated on the idea that fans want to see the biggest names win. However, there is a secondary, perhaps more sustainable market in the spoiler narrative. The audience in Miami responded to the dominance of Aliyah Boston and the craftiness of Chelsea Gray with an intensity that suggests a hunger for authentic competition over scripted greatness. If the league continues to push a specific subset of players who cannot consistently deliver under pressure, they risk a diminishing returns scenario where the hype no longer matches the product on the floor. The messy end of the protected superstar era could actually be a marketing goldmine if the league is brave enough to pivot toward the winners rather than the favorites. The physical toll of this new era cannot be ignored. Aliyah Boston's transformation into a big-body presence who collects bodies is a response to the increasing physicality of the women's game. The days of the finesse post player are fading. The modern game demands a level of strength that can withstand the constant contact of a 1v1 or 3v3 setting. Boston's use of her frame to neutralize smaller, quicker defenders like Breanna Stewart shows a high level of tactical awareness. She has recognized that in a league full of elite athletes, strength is the ultimate equalizer. Her ability to combine that strength with a newfound perimeter game makes her the prototype for the next decade of professional play. Furthermore, the psychological gap between the TikTok era and the veteran era was on full display during the post-game interactions. The decision by some superstars to avoid the media and fans after a loss speaks to a fragility that the older generation simply does not possess. Players like Candace Parker and Chelsea Gray have navigated seasons of injury, benching, and heartbreaking losses, yet they have maintained a standard of professional conduct that serves the growth of the game. When a younger star ghosts the very public that supports their brand, they are signaling that their commitment to the sport is contingent on their own success. This fair-weather superstardom is a liability for a league trying to establish a permanent foothold in the global sports landscape. The fallout from Miami will likely result in a recalibration of how prospects are evaluated during the draft process. Scouts are increasingly looking beyond the scoring averages and social media followings to assess mental durability. Can a player handle a physical defender without looking to the refs? Can they adjust their game when their primary shot isn't falling? In the case of Paige Bueckers, the answers in Miami were uncomfortable. While her skill set remains elite, her inability to manage the psychological friction of a difficult game is a red flag that teams will have to weigh against her commercial value. The Yukon privilege may provide a bulletproof vest in the media, but it offers no protection against a veteran who knows how to exploit a mental lapse. As the league moves forward, the focus will inevitably shift to the next major tournament or season opener. But the coronation of Miami that never happened will remain a significant touchstone. It was the moment the chosen one narrative collided with the reality of professional basketball. The era of the protected superstar is being replaced by an era of raw power and veteran execution. Whether the media is ready to acknowledge it or not, the power center of the league has shifted. The flashy headlines and dancing videos are being sidelined by a more clinical, determined style of play. The final takeaway from this tournament is that respect in professional basketball is a zero-sum game. For every ounce of respect lost by a frustrated superstar, an equal amount is gained by the players who stayed composed and executed their plan. Aliyah Boston and Chelsea Gray did more than just win games. They reclaimed the narrative. They proved that the point guard and the big body are the true pillars of the league's future. The crown was not stolen. It was earned by those who were willing to do the work that the cameras often miss. The next few seasons will determine if the protected class can adapt to this new reality or if they will continue to hit the wall that was built in Miami.